If we could have roll call, please. Mayor Smith? Here. Mayor Pro Tem Swartz? Trustee Valentine?
Here.
Trustee Check? Here.
Here.
Trustee.
Yeah.
Here. Here. Trustee Stelter?
Here.
You have a quorum. Hey, thank you. We have several announcements tonight, two of which are in the packet, and I'll just point everybody's attention to them. The first. Sorry. Do we need to move the agenda? Oh. I move to approve the agenda. Thank you.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, now we'll move on to announcements. So two are in the packet, and one was a thank you letter from North Fork High School because the town donated $540 to their back to school night. So the letter is in there as well as a photo of the graduating class of 2025, which we thought was pretty nice that they sent that. And there's also a press release and dismissal order of Eric Gilbertson's versus Town of Paonia and Stephen Wynn. And I didn't know, Stephen, if you wanted to say anything about it or just note that it's in the packet.
Just note that it's in the back, I'll talk about it.
Okay. And I have a third announcement, and it is to congratulate Clerk Vetter that she has gotten a full scholarship to go to the Municipal Clerks Institute and Academy, which is going to be held here in several weeks in Fort Collins. And the Colorado Clerks Managed CMA, this Colorado Municipal Clerks Association, CMCA, has a meeting every year, including classes, and clerks who attend all the classes and get all the necessary credits then become a certified municipal clerk, which is what Clerk Vetter is going to attain in July as long as everything goes well. But what's nice is she applied and she got a full $1,300 scholarship for the event this year, and they only give out one to clerks coming. So that's a wonderful feather to her cap. And we appreciate everything she does. And I just wanted to say that the Colorado Municipal Clerks Association is part of the International Institute of Municipal Clerks. So you can also then go forward and get your certification from them as well, which Clerk Vetter is hoping to do after she gets this. And as I was looking at the website for CMC, Colorado Municipal Clerks Association, there are approximately only 190 CMC certified clerks in the state of Colorado. So hopefully Clerk Vetter will make 191. So thank you. We're really proud of you, and thank you for all the effort you've been doing and the classes you've been taking and all the work you do. You have a lot of plates you keep spinning in the air. Thank you. Thank you. Does anyone else have an announcement to make?
We do have.
Yes.
Hey. Public Works wanted to give a shout out to the gentleman that lives at 801 4th Street. He has a beautiful tree in his front yard that had overgrown and was almost touching the road out in the intersection of our parade route. And we were able to send him a letter asking him to trim it back, and he did a beautiful job. No issues, it was great. Went off without a hitch from this person. So I just wanted to congratulate him for doing that. And thank you.
Yeah, thanks for letting us know about that. That's good. Anyone else? Okay. With that, we'll move to the public comment portion of the agenda. And this is a time when anyone in the audience or on Zoom is welcome to come up to the podium and speak for 3 minutes on anything that is not on the agenda tonight. And to do so, just raise your hand and I'll have you come up to the podium and just give us your name and whether you live in town or out of town. And then if you fill in the rest of the form that is at the podium for our records, that would be great. So with that, I see a hand. And Michelle, you were the first hand I saw, if you want to come up. We have a timer, if you're not aware of it. It beeps yellow when you're, how many seconds before 3 minutes?
45 seconds.
Right, just so you have your time.
Good evening. My name is Michelle Gillette. I live in Paonia. I'm here to address the mayor tonight with an issue of noise pollution. The Paonia Care and Rehab Center on Meadowbrook Road has several exhaust fans on their roof, and the electrical and/or vibratory hum coming from these fans can be heard all around the east side of town. It is heard on the Stewart Ditch Road heading towards Harding Lane or Elderberries. It's as well as being heard in the upper reaches of the ridges of Jumbo Mountain. Yes, all the way up there, we can hear it. The electrical hum has been continuous and far-reaching 24/7 for months now. It's never not there. It's especially noticeable at night when the ambient noise of birds, cars, dogs, and farm equipment has faded. The wonderful quiet at night is no more. It is affecting my sleep, and I have to wear earplugs now. I have reached out to the Paonia Care and Rehab Center and learned that one of the fans had cracked and needed to be replaced or repaired. And another fan was found to be missing the rubber dampening pieces as well as a loose lid. The repair of either fan did not change the noise coming from the bed. This seems like it might be a matter of inferior equipment and or questionable installation. Based on our town's ordinance for annoying sound, I'm hoping that the council and town staff can find a solution to this issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the room who'd like to speak in something not on the agenda? Yes. Come on up, Randall.
Madam Mayor, I'm Randall Gillette, representing Dark Skies Paonia tonight. And I apologize in advance to Paonia Care and Rehab Center because this is going to seem like piling on a little bit. But I'm here because I want to kind of bring attention back to our recently adopted town lighting ordinance, which, as I understand it, states that property owners who install a new exterior light, they have to come into compliance with the dark skies lighting or measures. And I've noticed a few instances around town, but one in particular recently has caught my attention and prompted me to come tonight. It's not only do I think it rises to the level of needed enforcement for this particular property owner of Paonia Care and Rehab. It's also, I think, a safety hazard. And what's happened is they've installed 3 new very bright lights that shine directly into the oncoming path of motorists coming down Minnesota Creek Road as you're entering town from that side. And I think it's a hazard that warrants perhaps even the police department checking into, because I think the glare is so offensive that it needs to be looked at by the town. But just generally, I want to also just bring attention to the ordinance for the benefit of property owners who may or may not know of the ordinance, who install new lights. And if they're not in compliance now, they're going to have to come into compliance by the end of the 2032 deadline. And I think it would be a great service for town staff to be alerted to when these happen to property owners, because they're going to have to come in compliance and they will have already spent all this money to upgrade. They've upgraded their lighting, maybe not being aware of, hey, you should, come into compliance now. So I think it'd be a great thing to just sort of like resurface this issue of the lighting ordinance, bring it to our awareness. I know enforcement is going to be very challenging, but I just wanted to reach out to you, Madam Mayor, in hopes that you could work with Administrator Wynn on this particular issue specifically, and just generally kind of keep it on the radar for us as a town going forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much for bringing it to our attention, both issues. Thanks very much. And while Randall is filling out the form, anyone else in the room who would like to speak on something not on the agenda? Seeing no one, is there anyone on Zoom with a hand up?
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. So with that, we'll turn to the consent agenda. And we have several items on there, including the June 10th meeting minutes, a Friends of the Paradise liquor license renewal, the liquor license for Paonia Cherry Days, and Paonia Top of the Rockies BMW Rally, both of which occur in July, sorry, and then we have our June 24th disbursements. So with that, do any trustees have any questions on the consent agenda topics? Issues? If not, would somebody like to make a motion to accept the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda.
Second, okay, seconded by trustee Heck. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that motion passes unanimously. Thank you. So we'll now turn to staff reports, and Administrator Wind, you had a second quarter report.
I do, let's see. So this differs from the email that I sent to you earlier. I did add some things and make some changes to formatting. It's been a pretty busy our second quarter, in the top right are the box that you saw going down streets the last week or so. A nice picture of our police department. So the first thing I want to talk about is our ADA transition plan update and our next steps. So that is what those robots were collecting. I've seen a lot of questions popping up in social media, and this is my way of addressing them through this report. We did select Mile High Accessibility Consultants through an RFP process where we had 7 consultants in a competitive process send us their proposals. We selected MHAC. Their proposal was the least, and it was probably it was the highest scored proposal as well from our scoring committee. That's $33,500 for the work that they're performing for us. The next closest one was one of our lowest scoring because the proposal just didn't meet our criteria, and that was $44,800. And then if we get into one that actually met our criteria, that next highest was $63,000. So almost double the cost. That's why we went with MHAC. And yeah, they did bring some innovative technology. No, this thing isn't going to read your cell phone. It's not going to, it didn't read, your garage door code to open your garage door. It collected very specific things. So while it was going up and down the sidewalk, it acted like it was in a wheelchair and assessed the sidewalks through, what do they call it? It was through engineering grade sensors, including inclinometers and downward facing laser rangefinders. At a few instances, our sidewalks were so bad that the robots fell over and had to be assisted to get back up. So it collected that data. What it was collecting was sidewalk cross and running slopes, surface tripping hazards, curb ramp compliance, pedestrian crossing and signals, accessible on-street parking locations. So if you saw it hanging out in the road, didn't have a death wish. It was actually looking at our ADA parking spaces, and then obstructions within that public right-of-way, P route. It simulated, like I said, it simulated being on a wheelchair. There was a delay, so it was only supposed to be for 2 days. Fortunately, it was here for the entire week, and that was due to, it runs on a cellular SIM card that reports that data back to the company, and they didn't have a T-Mobile SIM card, so they had to replace that SIM card with a T-Mobile to actually get reception here in town. So that's why it took that entire time. During this entire week, we also had MHAC here with actual people, and they evaluated all of our public facilities. So that was the only one that really wasn't, and I had it in my report, I should take it out, was the fire station. But I think we did go in the fire station. Didn't Blake have us go in there? Okay. So it was Town Hall, Teen Center, Schoolhouse, which is the museum, Public Works facility, ambulance facility attached to the Public Works, our airport, our town park, Apple Valley Park, Poulos Park, River Park, both parking locations. So all of these public areas. Their scope of work is to continue identifying or review existing ADA-related policies and identifying gaps. We don't have any other than we've appointed an ADA coordinator myself. So they'll help us build those policies to make sure we're in compliance with the ADA, including the updated PROWAG, which went into effect September of last year. To support, so they're going to help us develop policies, and then they're going to deliver that ADA transition plan or self-evaluation tools, and then recommend and prioritize improvements to sidewalks and intersections. What's coming next is they're going to start doing a public engagement strategy. So they're going to solicit meaningful feedback from stakeholders. So that could be some of our disabled community as well. Those folks that go through town on wheelchairs, we're going to reach out to them to see how accessible they feel we are in Paonia. And they'll do that through in-person virtual meetings, online surveys, comment forums, social media, and press releases. So that's what's coming next. And while they're preparing to do that public outreach, they're also taking all of the data that they collected and starting to put it into something that we can understand. So that's coming, right? That's what's going on. Fifth and Grand. So we have the Fifth and Grand Avenue realignment project. The good news is our amendment for our grants totaling just about $1.9 million has been approved by CDOT. They have encumbered those funds. They are ours. We just have to go out to bid. We aren't out to bid yet because we've run into delays with obtaining our temporary construction easements. So as of Friday, I had acquired 4 of the 6. One of the remaining 2 we may not need because it may already be right of way. And we're doing some double checking to make sure that we haven't vacated that section of 4th Street that looks like an alley on the other side of the intersection. And then the second one, we've attempted multiple times, and there's 1 or 2 things that could happen now with 504 Grand Avenue. We can either remove that driveway apron and see if CDOT will accept that and not need a TCE, a temporary construction easement, or we have to proceed with the eminent domain process. It all depends on what CDOT tells us. And because he's out in the county, even though he's surrounded by the town on 3 sides, we would also, I'd also have to go to the county commissioners to start that eminent domain process. So there's 1 or 2 ways. We're almost there, almost there. The bad news is we cannot go to construction this year. We can go to bid this year. We may be able to do some like demolition work, preliminary construction work later this fall and winter, with knowing that we'll go to full construction in the spring. What we did give to each participant with that with temporary construction easements is $500 per TCE. So they're getting some sort of consideration, including their driveway apron, in order to get that throughout for the inconvenience throughout the construction process. Like I said, we've secured 4 of the 6. Kaja did a really good job with preliminary door knocking, letting people know this is coming to a head. And then on Friday, a lot of people came in to sign, so it was excellent. Our next steps: we confirm right-of-way status at 4th and Grand, finalize decision regarding 504 Grand Avenue easement, submit our complete TCE package to CDOT, then we get to go to bid. So we have to wait for that notice to proceed to construction from CDOT, and then we can send out that RFP. What we're hoping is that by waiting until 2026 or spring of next year to start construction, those bids are going to come in less than if we were to try to push it this year. And we'll continue to update you as things progress. Our water capital improvement plan. So we are done with the site work. You can see that we mailed our last check to that company on May 25th. There is still some retainage left, just under $19,000 that we've kept as retainage. And retainage is, we can hold that if we've identified future or like construction defects, contractor caused delays, or other outstanding matters that may impose cost or liability to us as the town. There were a lot of delays that were contractor driven that we still have to discuss with our engineer if we're going to give that retainage to them or keep it for because they didn't meet the contract agreement. So they are our next steps for that for the tank relining is a temporary tank installation. So that was something that the board decided was a a sole source purchase. And it was necessary in order for us to put out an RFP to have this temporary tank already decided on. They should be here soon to start installing it in July. And when they go to start installing it, we may have to, it's not may, we will need to implement temporary water use restrictions. So, that may include like non-essential things for outdoor irrigation. And that's to ensure that we have an adequate water supply while we're flushing tanks and connecting this temporary tank. I think we'll have more information about that July 8th. So the town's request for proposal is out. So our 2 million gallon tank rehabilitation RFP, that final piece where they're actually going to sandblast and dry ice blast the tank, that is out right now. There have been 2 addendums that have been published with that as well. And those addendums talked about different ways of removing the paraffin wax coating that's sloughing off the sides of the tank right now. And talked about, different ways of making sure that the contractor knows we're doing lead abatement. So you can't just, if you're going to sandblast, you can't just let that paint go everywhere. So there's got to be some lead abatement as well, if there is any lead in that paint. And we're out to bid. It's due June 30th. So we've got 6 more days, and then we'll start scoring those proposals with our engineer and bring that to you July 8th. I wanted to give a funding update. So we are fully funded. And I wanted to, so there's been some confusion on, well, what is the interest rate? Is it 3%? Is it 1.5%? Do we get principal loan forgiveness? The answer is yes to all of that. So we have 2 different loans, and really 3 if you count our principal loan forgiveness. So our first loan is a leveraged loan agreement. That principal amount, that's what went out to bond. That was $3,664,396. That rate, if you remember, could have went up to 6.5%. We were lucky to see that the bond rate came back at 3.53%, well below that approved amount. So that's what we're locked in at 3.53%. We'll have an annual repayment of about $264,000 in that loan, and a year. And then that second loan is a principal amount of $6 million. $3 million of that is principal loan forgiveness, so it's a grant. So it's a $3 million grant to go along with our project. And then another $3 million at an interest rate of 1.5%. And that's what we call the direct loan through the Drinking Water Revolving Fund. And that repayment per year will be $175,000. So our total funding package through the CWRPDA, that's what we call the authority, is $9,664,396. Our total EIAF grant funding, that's DOLA funding, additional state funding. It's the Energy Impact Assistance Fund, is $1,956,000. So our total funding for our water projects is $11,620,396, of which $4,956,000 is grant funded, meaning we don't pay it back. It's money that was given to us for this project or for these projects. $3 million of that is at a 1.5% interest rate, and $3,664,396 is at 3.53%. We're fully funded to start moving forward on these projects. I can draw down as of last Thursday, so I can make my first draw request from our loans. And I haven't drawn down from the loans, but I have been asking for reimbursement for our grants. And we did receive $171,000 for our site work that we did in our tank relining, which leaves a little over $750,000 left to draw down from on that. Let's see. Our Western Loop, water loop replacement project. So we've stalled at 95% design with respec, and there's outstanding design details that are still being finalized. The last update I have is from Friday the 13th, June 13th, and that said that we're 30 days out to bid. But there were some details that weren't finalized that we asked questions about, and we're kind of surprised that weren't in the drawings yet. So those included right-of-way acquisition. So there are still some private easements that we need to get in order to do this realignment project. And then as part of the project, the town is replacing service lines for all of the affected customers along this route. We're not just putting in a meter and saying it's all on you. Because we're doing this, we're also replacing their service line from their meter in the right of way to the homes. And that hadn't been completed yet from our engineers. We don't know why. Once we have those details done, we have a meeting Thursday. We have a meeting tomorrow to finalize these so that we can get these, to get this going. We want to be able to go to bid yet this year. And then our raw water metering, that has stalled at 60% design, and we're waiting on CDPHE to give our engineers respec additional information. So it's kind of stalled in that state review process. Typically it's 30, 60, 90, 9,500. We're stalled at 60. So waiting for CDPHE to give us the green light. And that's where we are with our water projects. One also related to water, the town, we had shut off somebody's water for illegally obtaining it. And during the course of that investigation, we also found there was a second dwelling for an out-of-town customer that had also been connected, and they weren't being billed an appropriate rate. So there was only one base rate being billed. When we shut this property owner's water off, he decided to sue us. That was something that went out. We had taken one where everything went through the CGIA, and we appealed that decision because they were silent on 3 other topics. 1, reinstatement of his water service, my termination from the state of Colorado, and a letter of apology. What this dismissal with prejudice upholds, we've already dismissed the monetary claims for damages. Those were dismissed, went to an appellate court and upheld. This was a dismissal with prejudice for those remaining 3 claims. Reinstatement of water service without a water meter, my termination from the state of Colorado, and the a letter of apology. They've been dismissed with prejudice. We are also pursuing our costs to the court because we're the prevailing party, and that's what our next motion will be with our attorney in court, is to get our costs back. What this is saying is, even though you're outside of town, you still have to comply with our water ordinances to receive water. Meaning you can't build an accessory dwelling unit and then expect to connect it to our water system with there being a water moratorium in place. You can't do that. And if you do, you still have to get a second water meter and pay the appropriate fees. So it's good all around. Finally, I have really, really good news about our Federal Highway Administration grant for safe routes for all or something. Yeah, so this is,
Safe streets for all.
Safe streets for all. Yes, thank you. So the Federal Highway has released our grant for $293,974 to start prioritizing our streets so that we can start this. It's creation of a comprehensive action plan to address safety for multimodal transportation on all streets within town limits and for all major entrances into town from highways. So this is going to prioritize our streets, tell us which ones we need to do, and start preliminary engineering. I'm telling you now, all of them are full depth reconstruction. We can't mill and overlay anymore. They have got to be reconstructed. And so that's what this grant's going to do. It's finally been released. It's now back to the DC office and routed for signatures. And then once that's done, we'll be able to go, we'll get our notice to proceed, and we'll be able to get an RFP out for consultants. It's coming. We've been waiting for months, and it's finally here. So, and that is the end of my report.
Just going to say, it seems like really good timing that hopefully we'll have a report from the ADA, how we are with ADA and with the SS for all, that all this information combined could be really timely, because if we're going to fix the street, maybe we can fix ADA accessibility at the same time.
And that's the intent of multimodal transportation. So that means anyone that uses our streets, including sidewalks, can access it however they choose to transport themselves from one place to the other.
So we'll have all this information coming together, almost good timing.
It is good. And in time for budget season too. So that starts next month.
That's it.
Hey.
Yeah.
Okay, any questions for Administrator Nguyen? Okay. We will move on to actions and presentations, and we only have 2 items tonight. And just for the public to be aware of, we do take public comment on each of these items, and I'll sort of usually have a little bit of a discussion amongst the trustees, and then I'll open up to the public. Same thing, raise your hand, come on up to the podium, just give us your name, whether you live in or out of town, and then fill in the sign-up sheet. So we will do that on both items. So we will start with item number 1, which is resolution 2025-15 fee schedule. And I will turn that over to Administrator Nguyen.
Sure.
We worked on it too.
Yeah, so
Trustee Hunter.
there were 3 of us here that worked on it, and then Jess also was on our special event ad hoc committee. This was the next step in our special event ordinance. I really hope she's happy with it. So I put in all of the changes that we made in the staff report. Predominantly, the changes were changing multiple day events from 3+ to 2+, so that more long-running events can enjoy more of a sponsorship from the town. And that's for that sponsorship in lieu of fees that was passed in 6560 of the town's code, of this special event ordinance. The second one was clarifying that park rental fees for large groups over 4 hours requires a $250 refundable deposit. The third was change additional vendor fees from 15 to 10, so we reduced that. Number 4 was clarify that vendors that are informational only are exempt from the additional vendor fees and the count. So if the tree board wanted to go to Cherry Days and then the Harvest Fest and do something, they're not, the Creative Coalition and the Cherry Days Committee aren't going to be charged for them to attend. The 5th is remove charges for barricades. The 6th is remove charges for cones and signage. So as part of these rental processes or special event application processes, as the committee, we thought this really should be on the town to provide them, not with a strange small fee attached to them, $5 or $10. Today, we actually purchased new cones and barricades, and they'll be here Friday from Dallas-Fort Worth. So they're coming. Number 7, clarify that setup and breakdown time is not counted towards the street closure fee so long as the entirety of the event is under 10 hours. And that comports with what we also did for the special event ordinance, where setup and breakdown weren't included in the calculation of days for park rental. The reasoning behind that was that there's no commerce happening. This is all getting ready for the event to take place, and so those 2 days or those 2 days wouldn't count. Number 8, add banner fees and specify language for events happening multiple times over several weeks. Again, that is one that is also available for sponsorship in lieu of fees, so it can be waived. Number 9, add language referencing the special event ordinance for sponsorship in lieu of fees, qualifying fees within the fee schedule. And number 10, clarify special event liquor license fees. So those were the changes that were made. There was also a change made to building permits. So since we were doing this right now, we added mechanical permits that are just renovations, have an application fee and then evaluation. It's not like a new build, right? So where a new build is 150 application fee for that mechanical, so your HVAC system plus valuation. This is refurbishing or remodeling it. It's 50 plus valuation. So that was another change. And then our notes from the ad hoc committee meeting say that we still have a little work to do. And part of that is to look at our street closure or code and suggest some changes there. So that's something you heard in a previous meeting where people wanted to have block parties, and what does that look like? So it is referenced in special events, but because there's a second piece of code, we, as the ad hoc committee, believe that we should really look into this. and make some suggestions for changes. There are some questions for further discussion, namely insurance requirements for block parties, changes to the street closure ordinance, and then there was a clarifying on why the liquor license fee got changed, because we can charge, the town can charge an additional $25 by statute, even though the state's minimum was $25. So we can charge up to $50, and I wanted that clarifying thing for you, so you knew that came from our clerk. So, all right, that's it.
Trustee Hunter?
The one thing I would just add to that is the timelines on the draft street closure ordinance. Staff was gonna make an attempt to get that to the ad hoc committee by July 8th. And then the ad hoc committee is meeting again on that on the 10th of July.
And I just wanted to point out that under the street closure permit on the fee schedule, the ordinance for the street closure permit recognizes the cleaning deposit is mentioned, but there's no valuation on this section for the cleaning deposit. So there needs to be a discussion of how much to charge for the deposit in this fee schedule, because the ordinance says you will collect a fee for a cleaning deposit, but of course it doesn't say how much. That goes to resolution. So
And that was an oversight by myself and the committee. So if there is an edit, I would suggest that we have that discussion now and then suggest that as an edit to this resolution.
do you remember what it used to be? Because I thought it was in the fee schedule.
It was not.
You know what? I think it's in the application. Rick Vedder, do you remember? And hang on 1 second. Let me just get this answered and then I'll open up public comment. It seems to me there was a value associated with the deposit for street closure in the application.
Yeah, it's $500.
Okay, so that's what was then. Okay, all right, thanks. Those were the two pieces. So with that, unless trustees have another comment,
Yeah,
and now
there's
open it up to the
there's
public.
at least one street that can't have black parties by state law because they've got businesses on the end of the block. And it's a state ordinance that you can't.
Yeah, so that's also for truck routes. But we as the special event or the ad hoc committee haven't discussed that yet. That's our next topics to discuss is the street closure ordinance.
It's an odd one, so yeah, with a problem.
And it seems to me the street closure ordinance does reference that there are certain streets that can't be closed. I don't remember the language, but yeah, it does acknowledge that there's some streets that, yeah. Anyway, so there is a piece already there, but I don't know how prescriptive it is.
I haven't taken a dive into it yet, but sorry.
If we're done with the presentation part of it, are we into board discussion?
Yeah, and I'd like to open it up to the public.
Okay, do you want to do that
Um,
first?
So may I offer?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Jess is actually on our committee. I don't know if I should time her for what she has to say. So
Well, there could be a motion that
Well,
she could go to 5 minutes.
I could also start and then she could chime in on that because I bet I could cut her time down a bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jess and I had a conversation earlier.
Yeah, no, I think that sounds fine, and then we'll open it up to public.
Okay,
comment.
so-
Sounds like people love to.
Jess and I did talk on the phone earlier and I just asked her if there was anything in the fee schedule that she didn't agree with. And so the one item was in the banner fees. And I think that was something that was kind of towards the end of our ad hoc committee that we said, yeah, we need to get that in there, but we didn't really talk in detail about what that would be. And Jess's idea, and she'll have her chance to come up and talk and correct me or change anything, but from what I understood was deleting kind of that middle sentence where it says for events spanning multiple weeks, the fee may be applied for each week that the banner is displayed on public property, and leave it a $50 fee for the intersection here, with the understanding that aside from the banner fee itself, it doesn't really take much staff time because the applicant is coordinating with DMEA to get those banners done. And then separately at Twin Lakes, because that does involve staff time of hanging and removing the banner, that would be an additional $50 fee, basically 25 to put it up, 25 to take it down for staff time, but no restriction on times of recurring events. Again, specifically looking, for instance, at the Arbor Farmers Market. So if they're looking at paying this again and again.
Right, and so the reasoning behind this is it's eligible for a sponsorship in lieu of fees, so that those fees can be waived. The issue that we run into is like at Twin Lakes for Arbors Market, where it's up for weeks on end. It doesn't really comport with the rest of what we had already existing, where it could be up no longer than 2 weeks before or 2 weeks after the event. That's where it gets a little sticky. But that's.
And I know it could be, if we do have competing events, that's going to be something that, in my opinion, doesn't need to be micromanaged by the board, that staff can deal with, but there could be overlap.
Could I ask one question about banners before, and then, so when you were talking about banners, you're specifically limiting it to the intersection of Third and Grand.
No.
Where else, in terms of being hung? A banner hanging, are they
As far
ever
as
gonna
I'm
be
aware,
hung
there's only
somewhere
two
else?
places where it happens, and that's at the intersection and then at Twin Lakes.
And Twin Lakes is really kind of an anomaly that hadn't been done before because of the farmer's market going from May to September.
It's
So if you're-
new and it's something that I think staff has done.
Yeah, I don't know that they've done it for any other event, but here's my question. So did you all talk about, first of all, are you contemplating there being banners hung anywhere besides above Third and Grand? Was there any contemplation that there be any other intersection where a banner would be hung?
No, and so, but there's no ordinance that even allows for banners to be hung. This is just in the fee schedule because it's a service that we're offering within our public rights board. So if you want to start going down that path, we will have to go to chapter 18 because that's where our sign ordinance is and make updates to that, even though it should be in chapter 16. So
The only reason I ask is there a possibility that we would have multiple competing banners on different intersections because there are two events overlapping that same 4-week time? Is that ever going to be an issue? And I guess we'll just address it if it is.
well, it is right now. So Arbor Market is up, and I think, is it the BMW? No, it's Cherry Days is up in the intersection.
Well, and I feel like what our bowl is doing is very different than the intersection. And do you ever contemplate us having multiple signs at Twin Lakes?
Could be.
So we'd have to, okay. So I just didn't know if you had talked about potential competing interests in terms of somebody wanting a corner that we've never had banners on before. That's all. And Clerk Better?
I was just gonna say, we have that happen in the wintertime when the holiday art fair gets going. There's a couple of events and they work very well together and figure out whose banner's gonna be up and who's gonna be moved. So far, whenever we've had competing events, the organizers have actually gotten together and worked it out amongst themselves.
And it's still that one intersection, is the intersection. Okay, that's all I was wondering. Okay. With that, we'll open it up to public comment, and Jess, come on up.
I like that I get invited to start public comment.
You get to be first. Give us your name and.
I'm Jess Durbin Ackerman. I live in town. Would you like my address?
No.
You don't use
Just
that
put it on
anymore?
the form.
Okay. I am part of the special events ad hoc committee, and I want to say to your point about the banners that like 2 weeks ago, there was the North Fork Uncorked and Riverfest banners were up there together. So that's kind of how people manage it is, and for the holiday fair, we like one comes down and we go up, or we go up and we plan it with the other organizers so that ours doesn't stay up beyond the event. So for the banner fees piece that Lucy brought up, Trustee Hunter, my concern about that is the Arbor Market because it goes for 20 weeks and that could be $1,000. And as you said, it could be waived, but only 50% or $500 can be waived. And that's $1,000 if you charge $50 a week for 20 weeks. So that's my concern about hurting existing events by doing this. So I liked the idea of like charging an install and take down fee for the Twin Lakes one where it actually takes staff time. And that can be in addition to what's already on here for a normal banner fee. I also think that it could be something like up to the discretion of the town administrator for other locations. So that it doesn't have to come to the board and Stefan can decide, you know, what banners get to go up on Twin Lakes or. Because there's other things that already in the special event ordinance are up to the town administrator, so this could be something that is up to the town administrator to decide, and it doesn't have to come before you. And then for the street closure permit deposits, we actually did talk about that, or I remember us talking about it, and we talked about doing 150 for 4 hours or less, which is what the park rental fee deposit is. And then we talked about doing either 250 or 500 for more than 4 hours. And either of those I'm totally fine with because we get our deposits back when we do those events. So yeah, my suggestion was to just use the same fees that are in the park rental deposits.
Do you have proposed?
I think that's it for me, but I don't know, there might be something else that comes up that I want to chime in on, so.
Well, let me let others come up to the podium as well, if anyone else in the room has any comments on this fee schedule. I want to give people an opportunity, and I don't see anybody in the room who wishes to speak on it, and nobody else in, right? Okay, so I'd say at this point, maybe Jess, if you don't mind, go ahead and sit down, and then we'll call you back up.
Great, can I just close my comments by saying, thank you to my fellow ad hoc committee members for all of the amazing work we're doing on figuring out our special event regulations and all of that, and I'm looking forward to a streamlined application when all of this is over.
Cool, thank you. Thanks.
I will just say that I'm looking at my notes and I do see that for the deposit, we were gonna mimic the park fees. I do see that in my notes from our committee discussion.
We have to. No, I didn't have it. I'm glad we got those. So is there any proposed language then for others? Because we've heard a couple of different.
I'm curious what staff's take would be on just this recommended changes to the banner fee portion.
I don't know how to word it. That's.
So what if we say 50, and I'm not making a motion, I'm just spitballing. What if we were to say $50 per event for 2 weeks before the event, but must be taken down no later than 2 weeks after the event, period, for banner fees. And then additionally, for banners to be hung at the Twin Lakes property, it would be an additional $25 installation and $25 removal fee.
Still able to be a sponsorship in lieu of fee.
Yes, but without the language about applied each week that the banners display. Removing that language. How does staff feel about that? Is that excessive? Is that approachable?
So essentially it's $50 and $50. It's the same amount, it's just.
Regardless of the amount.
$50 period, and then an additional $50 for Twin Lakes,
so
because
it
it
would
does
be
actually involve
Yeah, so it'd be
staff time.
100
Yeah,
for that, okay, that's
So
what I'm.
yeah, $100.
it'd be 100 total, because there's $50 banner fee period. And then because the event organizers are working with DMEA to hang what they do at the intersection, but staff is actually, it's my understanding anyways, that staff hangs banners out at Twin Lakes, that would be an additional fee for their time. 50 or 100. But then we're removing the restriction on multiple week events.
As long as it's clear that it's $100 for Twin Lakes, I think I'd be okay with that.
So just to make sure I have this, so $50 is a flat banner permit fee. Just to make it simpler, it's $100 at Twin Lakes by administrative approval.
Hey, Carl, I got a text message from Jess. With a good suggestion. So, and instead of it just being relegated to Twin Lakes, any other town property managed by town staff 25 installation and 25 removal.
For staff time for hanging and
Yeah.
moving.
I'm being kind of an idiot here, but I know the town built the stand. For the Arbol market. So
Would be nice to have.
I think if the town is gonna be expected to build stands for signs, that's a little more than $50.
I mean, I think it's, again, what I said that's not in this, but I personally don't see the need for the board to micromanage staff in organizing who's where, but there's one spot for a banner and it's up to staff to organize who gets what when. It's not like we're out, at least in my mind, building a stand for everybody that wants a banner.
And that's what I'm saying. That was built by the staff, which is great, but that shouldn't be the expectation of someone who
Right.
brings a banner they want to hang at Twin Lakes is my issue. Again, I want to protect staff time, and there should be an expectation that the staff will create the sign. But then again, on public property, we don't want some cheesy thing that could be a problem. So I'm really being protective of our public property and our liability associated with it. And so, how nice does the town want to be? If Arbol gets a new sign next year and it's 2 feet longer, is the town going to build them a new stand? So I know I'm being a micromanager, but I do think it's important when we're allowing people to put things on the town property, we need a fail-safe for expectations. Anyway, Hank, go ahead. Both of you. You first, trustee. Donna.
I was just gonna say the banner permit itself has three very specific restrictions for what a banner has to look like. The size, metal tiles, and I can't remember the third one, so maybe that could be a part of keeping something like that done. Because we can't say what people can put on it, but we can say what it's made out of
And how big it is?
and how big it is, yes.
See, but the one at our bowl would not hang on the street.
It's the same size as the ones that go up on the street.
Oh, it is the
It's
same
maximum-
size?
It's 16 feet long by 30 feet tall is the maximum size you can have for a banner, and that's the same size as the Arbol Market one.
Okay,
So I would say that's on the application.
you have convinced that the staff will not be asked to do something out of the ordinary. Sorry. Well, let me.
It was like my little 2 cents was all just, it would be nice to have that piece so that we could build something nicer than that. It is what we could fit or what we had scraps. It is rebuilt several times. It was held down with sandbags. It is not the nicest looking thing I've ever seen. So it would be nice to be able to build something. So
So
if we could start collecting these pieces.
another suggestion from our committee member was to up that for these other properties to $50 for install, $50 to removal. Instead of 25 and 25. So you're talking about 150 total.
Just to cover, if we wanna cover staff time and what they're doing, yes.
But
Let
not,
me
well,
spitball again. How about if it were to read $50 per event for 2 weeks before the event must be taken down no later than where staff time is not required to install and remove the banner. And then $150, same language, for 2 weeks before the event, taken down no later than 2 weeks, where staff time is required to install and remove the banner on existing structures.
Getting the ones that are longer than? Are you missing the piece about longer than 2 weeks?
No, I'm saying that would apply to both. But we're breaking it into two parts, so 50 per event where staff time is not required to hang and remove, and 150 per event where staff time is required, but also specifying that it would be on existing structures, so we're not building new stuff.
Okay, so there's no reference to how many weeks.
It would be the same language for 2 weeks before the event, but must be taken down no later than 2 weeks after the event, but we're removing the part about multiple weeks.
You don't want them to have to take it down. Would that language mean that they have to?
rather than say for staff time, I think There's just a $50 per event for 2 weeks, before the event, but must be down no later than 2 weeks after the event. Striking the next sentence that says for events spanning multiple weeks, the fee may be applied for each week that banners displayed in public parking. That's stricken. And then add one that says for all town property, not at the intersection, it's $150. I'll leave it at that.
Multiple weeks.
That's confusing with the $50.
So then we have a banner fee for the intersection, and then we create a new column for the banner fees on other town-owned property. That'd be clear. Still making sure that it's eligible for sponsorship and lieu of fees pursuant to PMC section 656.
Just going up.
Thank you. I just want to clarify that the whole point of having banners at Twin Lakes is that those events are longer than a weekend or a week. So like, the reason I'm involved in this is because we're exploring some idea of having a banner up for Picken, which is 4 weeks, and we've never put a banner up on the corner of Third and Grand because that's too long and it would take over space for other events that happen. So that's my interest, and I'm just don't want to put I think it's hard to put the 2 weeks piece on that if the event is ongoing weekly for 5 months. So that's why I would suggest not putting the 2 weeks piece on that. Or it could be 2 weeks after and 2 weeks before and 2 weeks after, but that's 6 months for the arbor market.
Were you contemplating that with your separate row? So.
Thanks for talking us through this. I'm glad we can have a productive meeting.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to bring it up, because there's gonna be other people who want to have a banner up on town property for longer than, not in the intersection, may want to do another Twin Lakes, thinking about the future. So I think your separate idea is good. So I will, maybe you two could scratch the motion for do you have to change the existing one? Yes, you do. So 2 motions, right? One for the existing street closure, for the hanging banner, right? And then Clerk Better has her hand up. Go ahead.
Mayor, could you request that these motions be written down and given to the clerk after the meeting, please?
Yeah, that's a great idea. If that's, okay, and we're looking at 2 separate motions. Does that seem reasonable for you wordsmithers?
Actually, I'm just gonna speak it and then I'll watch the recording and write it down and give it to you.
That's what I'm worried about too, is the exact wording of it, because as I learned my detriment of this, that means a lot to have it worded right, so.
Let me just spitball one more time before I go for the motion and make sure I've got it right. So it would be 50 per event, 2 weeks, blah, 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 blah. Plus an additional $100 or $150 total for banners at town property other than the Third and Grand intersection. Okay, I'd like to make a motion.
And so you're now contemplating 1 motion and 1 banner fee row
I'm gonna make 1 motion for the banner fee, and then I'll make a separate motion for the deposits for the street closure permit, and then I'll make a separate motion to hopefully approve it.
Okay, so instead of 2 banners, you'll have 1 banner fee contemplating hanging and Twin Lakes.
Other town-owned property.
The other town-owned property in 1. Okay, yep, okay.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to revise the administrative fee schedule in this section of banner fees to read $50 per event for 2 weeks before the event, but must be down no later than 2 weeks after the event, and an additional $100 or $150 total for banners that are at town-owned property, not to include the Third and Grand intersection, eligible for sponsorship in lieu of fees pursuant to Paonia Municipal Code Section 6-5-60.
Good with that? Work better, but you still want.
I'll get it to you in a minute.
Okay.
We're watching on the transcription and picked it up pretty good.
Oh, good. Okay, all right,
And I'll second that.
okay. Any further discussion? And how about all in favor?
Aye.
Hey, that passes unanimously. All right, motion
And then do
number
I
two.
need to do the actual words, or can I just, in my motion, request that staff make the deposits match the park rental deposits?
You can do that.
Okay.
Can you also make sure that calculation and that street closure permit is spelled right as well?
I'll do that really quick, yeah, because that was actually had it circled. Okay, I'll make a separate, oh, wait, no, that's part of that. Okay. Yes. Okay, I'd like to make a motion to amend the administrative fee schedule under the section for street closure permit to, one, correctly spell the word calculation. And two, revise the deposits required for street closure permits so they coincide with the deposits required for park rental fees for large groups.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, very good. That passes unanimously, and that was the extent
Now
of
I'm
things.
I'm
Oh,
gonna
you
ask for it to be approved.
Oh, that's good too, but no more edits
That's it for
needed.
that's it for my edits.
Yes, no more edits needed.
That was stressful.
And Administrator Wynn, you didn't have any other edit? Oh, no, it's already in here, and that was what you talked about with the permit, the building permit, that's already there. Okay, so no other edits, and I say, go ahead, trustee Hunter.
I'd like to move to approve resolution 15-2025 fee schedule as amended.
Very good. I'll second that.
Hey, all in favor?
Aye.
Right, that motion passes. We now have a revised fee schedule. Thank you. And we have item number 2, which is consideration on levels of service for water customers and issues on private property. And I'm going to turn that over to Administrator Wynn. Give us the introduction.
I can. So there's a staff report here that kind of explains some of the issues that we've been having. And it's not just isolated to one issue, even though there is one that precipitated it's here to speak as well. But we've received various requests from water customers concerning the water within their private properties past the utility easement of public right of ways. One of those requests has been sent to the board numerous times, and town staff have done their best to accommodate the water customer's request while being cognizant of time spent, staff time spent on what we consider a private issue. Staff would like to know when they can consider a service request closed. And in this circumstance, we believe that we've exhausted all options aside from paying for a plumber to investigate these issues, in particular in a basement. And from my understanding, it's still ongoing. But we've determined that it's a private, not a public issue. One of the other things that we want to bring up is at what point should I be involved as the town administrator and treasurer? Should I be the one going to people's individual homes and looking at water leaks or potential water in a basement? Or am I the best person to do that? Is it the best use of my time? And that's for you all to consider. There's several attachments. The first attachment is a letter that you've all received. I believe you've received it in writing, in a paper format. And then you've also had some emails that have come through as well. And Mr. Jankowitz is here to talk about some of the issues that he's been having, as well as the letters that he sent. So I want that's in the packet for you to review. And then I've also put in the documentation from Public Works on what they've done and previously what our previous Public Works Director, Corey Heiniger, had done specifically for this property in question. And Nikki had written out a report on everything that she was able to find that was done, and then including going into the home, checking, and then trying again recently, the last couple of days, or earlier this month, they had tried to go out again to meet with the property owner unsuccessfully. And then we also have a couple of videos from, was it last week? Yes. So from Thursday or Friday of last week that I think are worthy of sharing. So one of the questions that we have for this particular part of town is what does our storm system look like? This was a sunny day, and that is a picture of water flowing in the storm system. It is storm water or groundwater. And then a video of that. Give me 1 second. So a video of the water flowing, and you'll have to share this again. Zoom will not let me share it. There we go. So that is stormwater actively flowing on a sunny day I believe this is on 3rd Street,
Yeah.
3rd and Delta. And so it's just rushing. What our water operator also does routinely is, and here's another one of that same manhole. What our water operator does is he routinely checks out at the outfall at the North Fork for chlorine. And he checks to make sure that there isn't water, drinking water flowing into the river. That was an issue that we had with a fire hydrant, right? That was what precipitated the 2019 issues that we had where water was gone for a number of days. It was at a hydrant and it was flowing right into the North Fork River. We've done things to protect our system. We've put hydrant meters to see for flow, to see if there's a break. We've had, and for this particular circumstance, we also had American leak detection out to listen to the pipes. We can't shove a camera into an active water pipe that CDPHE would probably fine us maybe thousands of dollars. But what we can do is do a leak detection, and they listen to the pipe to see if there's any sort of leak. They didn't find that with this particular circumstance. And it was late last year. Okay. So, but there was also an issue, like I said, where we check routinely to make sure that we don't have drinking water going into the North Fork River. Our guys also monitor our plants, our water plant, our water treatment plant. If there's a loss in pressure, specifically in this area, if a 6-inch water line breaks, we're going to know. We're going to know almost immediately because we're going to get alarms going off in our treatment plant that shows that the levels in our tank are dropping. We haven't received anything like that. And so that's the information I wanted to give you. Obviously, the property owner is here to talk about what he's done as well, try to identify this standing water in his basement.
And Nikki, anything else you want to add from your report?
About it. The one thing I guess I found out from Corey after I wrote that one, and they kind of talked about it before the meeting, was the ditch as well. Corey said they did shut that lateral off for a weekend to see if anything changed, and cleaned it off and did all sorts of stuff there, and so I don't know when that was.
So that was the irrigation ditch?
Yeah.
So that wasn't our system?
So the Stewart ditch.
Yes, we teamed up with, I don't know who, but they ended up turning that lateral off for a weekend to see if there's any.
All right, thanks. Any questions to start out with from trustees or Administrator Wynn? Okay, so with that, I'll open it up for public comment. I know Mr. Jankowicz would probably like to come up and speak, or Marcia, and if you'll just give us your name, where you live, and then fill out the form.
I'm Marcia Prasad, and I live outside of town. I'm a realtor in Paonia, and I worked with Charlie when he bought his property here. I guess I have a question, and I don't want this to come out of my time, so maybe if you could address it later. But I'm wondering where the water is collected for the storm drains, like where it flows into that system?
I would have to double check those pipes, but I mean, the manhole is right between
I could see
Delta,
where it was,
yeah, the railroad.
But like,
so
where's
it's where
that
it was.
water coming from to have that kind of water drain out? So I'll just, okay. So Charlie bought his house in about October, and I can check the date of 23. Prior to that time, Ben and Amber Gillespie owned the house for 3 years, or over 3 years. And their son lived down in the basement. There was no water problem. And so when Charlie bought the property, there was no water in the basement. By spring of 24, he started having all this water come up. And he sent me videos showing me like it was like a river almost running through there, that he had so much water in his basement. And so it continued all of last spring. And then we thought, well, maybe it could be the ditch. And so the ditch was shut down for a period of time. It didn't make a difference. And then when winter came, it still was flowing. There's so much water. So Charlie, tried to get help from the town. It didn't ever resolve. And it was like a new issue that had come up. So Charlie hired someone to put in a French drain around the inside on two sides. The east side, which faces the street, Delta, and then down the south side of the house. They put a French drain there, and then that water they connected to the sewer. And it is running all the time. And if he wants to, he can run a sump pump continuously, goes on and on.
I'm sorry, I have a question, Marcia.
Yeah.
So what do you mean he attached it to our sewer?
Say what?
That's illegal. I'm sorry, but that's something where CPHE would be involved.
Describe, anyway,
I don't know.
Okay.
But anyway, it's like not being pumped out. Yeah, well, yeah. Anyway. But anyway, there's a problem. There's something that has not been in existence in that neighborhood in at least the last 4 years. And I don't think that when Amber and Ben bought the property, that would have to be disclosed if there was an ongoing water issue. And their child had lived down in the basement with furniture and everything for 3 years. And then all of a sudden there's an issue. So that's why Charlie's not a problem. That I could potentially be the town's.
okay. Anyone else that would like to speak?
Yes, who?
Give us your name and just for the record and where you live, whether you live in town or out of town.
My name is Charles Young Kid, not whatever you said, or I'll call it Steve. So let me,
Excuse me, 1 second, please. Would you give us your full name and not do it
Charles Young
in?
Kid, Charles J. Young Kid, think of Young Cabbage.
Yes, well, thank you, but to make a personal remark is not okay, so don't start that way, please.
Okay,
Thank you.
so I'm just gonna read what I want to say. Let me make it clear, I'm not here to take issue with you or to participate in what I would consider a meeting with a preconceived decision. Mr. Wynn has decided on the decision outcome of this meeting is just a formal meeting to say, sorry, Charlie, to me. What I do feel is the way that I got notified of this agenda today was 4:45 p.m. the other day. I received no formal agenda nor a formal invitation to this meeting. No one contacted me except when Marcia, honestly, I had no idea. This is what I had for a message which I provided to all of you. Here's the message I got. Service level for private property owners, including your property or at your phone number is, I guess it's the city phone. Thank you. That's all I got. And I got it at 4:45 the other day. 4:47 actually.
I really want to dispute that because he didn't listen to the voicemail, he deleted it, instead used a text message that was a transcription of the message.
That's all I had. sir.
All right,
That's all I had was what I gave you.
I want to just do a timeout for a second here. I know you're upset, but we're not litigating your issue tonight.
You're gonna vote on it.
We're not voting on your issue. We are voting on what trustees would like,
Okay.
the administrator and
Let me
staff
continue. Let me
in a
continue
personal
my time.
situation. So no, your time stopped. So I don't want the administrator feeling like he has to defend himself. I don't want you, feeling like
I have to defend myself.
we are not here to make a decision about your property.
But I'm defending myself if he's gonna accuse me of something, okay?
But we are not litigating your issue tonight. I just want to make that
Let
clear.
me
So
finish
please
what I want to
continue.
say. Honestly, I had no idea this referred to tonight's meeting or a request for me to be at that meeting. I am on the town of Paonia text message service and received messages about garbage disposals and streets being worked on. And I only became aware of what this message was about when Marcia contacted me. And after Mr. Nguyen contacted Liz from the real estate company, who broke around the house, and he said, oh, he received a phone message the day before, right? That's all I had for my phone message was what I gave you, okay? That's it. Might point out, the agenda was approved on the 20th of this month, and I guess it probably even discussed before that, but no attempt was made to contact me about the agenda or. Wait a minute.
You've still got time.
Okay, Mr. Nguyen never took the time to email me the agenda or contact me by phone or text, which he could have done. What I am here to say is that I've been a resident of this town for 15 years, owning 2 different properties, but have never had an issue with the town. And that I am a senior citizen, will be 75 years old and within a month. I'd say I feel like the town has treated me not with respect, nor concern, or empathy. I might note that I was a Forest Service civil servant for 35 years. I had a position similar to the mayor for the Forest Service.
And your time is up, Mr.
Thank
And I'm not going to try to pronounce your last name.
you.
Charlie, thank you.
Wonderful 3 minutes.
Anyone else?
I didn't just say what I want to really say again.
I'm sorry, you can't. Please, if you would like to, you can hand that to the clerk and she can share it with all of the
There you
trustees.
go.
And it can be shared with all of us after the meeting.
My main thing is to say, I would ask him to send this back to the Public Works and not
Excuse
to
me.
have such a big report
Sir,
and allow me to work the
Sir.
Public Works.
please sit down. Thank you. Any other comments from the audience? Yes.
Hello, my name is Liz Heydrich. I'm with Needle Rock Mountain Realty. I was a co-listing agent on Amber and Ben Gillespie's house. I do have some photographs that I recently found, specifically of the basement, which was not the showpiece or the jewel of the home, primarily because it was a basement. But I can swear to you that in fact, there was a child that stayed and lived in the basement during the whole time that they lived there because he didn't want to stay in a room with his brother. And that's why they sold the house, because they outgrew it. The basement at that time I had been in multiple times and there was never any evidence of water in the basement. The property was on the market for some time and I was in it at different seasons of the year. I will make sure to send the pictures to Mr. Nguyen that I should have sent earlier. I really sincerely just found them as I was sitting here listening to this conversation. They were actually taken by Amber Gillespie on May of 2023 and sent to me because a client was coming and had wanted to see the basement. And there were no pictures on buying the basement because it was unattractive. They had put all of their personal items and totes and whatnot. I think you'll be able to see that there is a bed and fabric and a desk and plenty of totes and other items in the basement, and clearly no evidence of water. These were spontaneous pictures that she took on that day in May. And I'll make sure that that date is included and the context around them. And I would just simply say that as difficult as this is, and even though I know that people have gotten sideways on this, and there's been some miscommunication, certainly. I don't think that it's outside the realm of possibility that there might be some sort of occurrence happening that, whether it be natural or otherwise, should be a mutual concern to both the town and the citizens on that street. So I also do know that I've met and spoken to Mr. Nguyen several times, and he has tried to be attentive to my concerns as I speak on behalf of our client. So I thank you for your kind consideration. And if there's anything that we can do to assist in kind of going back in time, please let us know. I appreciate your service. Thank you so much.
Thanks. And did you sign?
I will sign it and I will send these pictures. Okay, I know you won't be able to review them tonight, but I will make sure that Stephanie has them. Thank you. You're welcome.
While you're signing, is there anyone else in the room that would like to speak? Seeing none, and I don't think there's anybody online.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. So I take it back to the trustees, because we're not here to answer the issue at Charlie's house, because this is not, we are not here to decide what Public Works did and didn't do and have found. This is about when you have a situation like this, how do we need some sort of a process in place where an issue brought up by a private person, and if the town has done its best to answer the question, how do you address this? How do we stop dealing with an issue like this? So anyway.
I do want to draw attention to another memorandum that went out a couple of weeks ago that went town-wide, and that's for, there are certain places within town that are town property that are off limits to the general public. And that's by state statute, one of them being the Public Works yard, the shop. Those are not open to the public. There's been a history of it being open to the public at times as well. And not by choice, but people show up. And that memo went out to say, no, if somebody shows up, you need to redirect them to town hall. It's for safety and security of those particular areas. So that also comes into this conversation as well, on what is enough, right? At what point is enough?
Yes, trustee Hunter.
I have a question for the town attorney. So as far as the staff report, the question put to the board is, staff would like to know when they can consider a service request closed. So using property as an example, I'd like to hear from the town attorney where the town's responsibility ends from a legal standpoint as far as trying to solve these types of problems.
Claire, are you ready to answer? Give your response?
I mean, I'm gonna need a little more, that's a very, I understand the general gist of the question, but I'm gonna need a more specific.
So let's say a resident has water in their basement and it's their contention that that water is coming from the town. The town has done leak detection and not found a leak. The town has done cameras in the stormwater and not found anything unusual. There's no indication that the town can find that the water is from the town, but the resident is still having problems and would still like that addressed. So where is the town legally required to continue these types of investigations versus that burden falling on the homeowner?
I mean, the first and general answer is it's really done on a case by case basis. Water is a very complicated area. Our water systems are not as generalized and as organized as they could be. As the town is aware, there's multiple different water companies, etc., with mains and service lines unidentified going in multiple different directions on multiple different properties. In a perfect world, typically the town is responsible for their main lines, and once those main lines enter private property, through service lines, typically the property owner is responsible for their own service lines that are on the other side of a meter, which in a perfect world are where the main, where the service line taps into a main. So in this specific instance, I don't know enough to say what the answer is, but I will say that water that's close to a house is typically a property owner's issue. So meaning because there's a service line coming off the main, that's not the town's responsibility in a general context. But there's caveats to that, and they're endless. And I don't want to. I'd have to know a lot more about the specific facts to tell you more than that. If a water main, for example, going down a main street breaks, it would affect obviously more than one property if it were a major leak. But that's something that the town would be able to detect once the town has done its due diligence and can say that we have no leaking, of the water mains that we maintain. Then typically the responsibility goes to an owner, especially in a situation where there's a service line coming off the main. But I don't know if any of those, I don't know the exact situation and circumstances with this particular house. And I'm not trying to skirt the issue. There's so many different answers. I don't want to give you something that's off based on the, facts that I don't know.
Thank you. Any other trustee questions? Attorney? I might just give an anecdote because I live across the street from Mr. Charlie. I'm not going to try to do your last name because I can tell it's sensitive.
Question?
No, you need to let me finish. I live across the street and down a couple houses, and we have a sump pump in our basement, which does not run very often. But the anecdote is years ago, when we bought the house, we did have quite a bit of water in the basement. And someone came out from town, I couldn't tell you who it is, but just to the north of our house, he said that he has known over the years that there is subsurface alluvial flow just naturally occurring through that neighborhood. So I'm just telling you anecdotally what I was told. And we do have a root cellar that we do have to do a sump pump occasionally, but we don't have water in our crawl space or anything. So I'm just giving you anecdotally, there can be alluvial flow in this town because, everything's coming off the mountain and we have rivers and we have alluvial flow associated with all of the river systems that we are in this valley. So that's just my anecdotal thing. But getting back to the question at hand is, when the town has done what they think is the extent that they can do, is there some mechanism that, should there be a letter created, should there be a of things that Public Works would go through in a situation like this? They cross off all the information and say, we've done our due diligence. We do not know of any leaks associated with the town of Paonia. And then just stop. I mean, do we want to ask the staff to create something like this so this kind of a situation doesn't continue? Any thoughts? Yes.
What has been done is the town has done every investigation they can do, short of excavating the entirely around that house, which is not something I want to see done by the town. Excavating that house is maybe the only thing to be done. Leaky basements are hell. I've been a contractor for 40 years, and a leaky basement, they come and it's hell to find out where it is. And basically what I have done is put French drains in and waterproof the outside of the building. And it's very expensive. You have to excavate down to the footer, and that's all there is. There is a lot of water on Delta, always has been. It comes right from the Stewart Ditch, and the lateral that gets shut off may or may not do much. And when they shut off the water, it takes weeks before the groundwater goes away. So in my opinion, the town has done all the diligence. They've looked at all of their stuff. And it has not been found that we have a leak. And there's water, but we don't know where it's coming from. So we've done all we can at this point.
There's one more item we could do. We can survey everyone at Delta Avenue to see if their basements have water in it. I mean, that's the only thing left that I can think of. And then at that point, it still doesn't pinpoint the issue. Is it a ditch water? Is it this alluvial flow? If it were a water leak from our drinking water lines, we would see it. I can't say that we would have 5 years ago, but with the safeguards in place now, we would notice something. An alarm would go off on a treatment.
We have more than one house call. It's just one house, it's usually that service line, sewer and water pole.
Mayor, can I get to say something?
Hang on one second. Nikki, could you repeat what you said? I couldn't hear you.
Oh, I was just gonna say, usually if we had anything with the main, we would have more than one house affected. I think Clay pointed to that as well, that's sewer and water. So that's a very common troubleshooting that we do as well. And then the chlorine test is kind of our go-to, it's standard across municipalities, so.
Thanks. And Mr. I would prefer that you we're not deciding on your house tonight. It's just not our place. It's mostly has the town done its due diligence. And so if you have more things to add, I'm going to ask you to talk to Clerk Better after the meeting.
Can I say one thing or ask the people on the trust here?
No, I'm sorry, you can't, because again, we're not litigating your property. Yours is the example of where they've done quite a few things, and we want to know.
Being used on your screen, my name is being used. I would ask you, and you can call it out and have me drug out, but do you think it was proper to notify me about this meeting yesterday?
I'm sorry, sir, we're not going to do that right now.
I never received an agenda for this meeting when my name was going to be put up, my letters were going to be publicized. I never.
I'm sorry, sir.
received a proper
We're not going to do
identification
that.
day before.
Point of order.
Yeah, point of order. You received an
It's
email.
not a point of order, it's the truth.
Enough. So do you want to try to provide any guidance to the staff?
I have a thought.
Okay, yeah, and
So my 2 cents worth would be to direct staff that once they have exhausted what they feel is all appropriate avenues, to consult with the attorney to see if there are any further legal avenues that should be investigated. And if not, then the determination be made to close that case and provide a letter stating that it's been closed.
Trustee Chick.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think the town's responsibility is for the distribution system up to the meter for the residents, as well as the sewer system and the storm drain. And it seems there's one open question about the storm drain. And that, because of the flow there, the water has to be coming from somewhere, and that would be good to know how it is getting into the storm drain there, especially on a day that has rained recently, and that would indicate the alluvial flow. I too have an anecdote about when I was looking for property in Peonia. We saw some houses, and it was a surprise to me that it could even get on the market, but there was like a spring in the basement. And of course, we said, no, we don't want that one.
Yeah, and Nikki,
I just got a text from Jordan, there might be some camera footage from stormwater drains that has infiltration.
Where-
Water.
Where
how
it
we
is
take
like
it.
a crack in the storm drain, so it's getting into the storm drain?
It might not be necessarily a crack, but it is a way to get storm water out. So.
Not from the surface, but from underground?
Correct.
Somehow. Okay.
So I don't have it with me, but he says we might have some video of that.
So you typically see infiltration in storm systems at joints of these pipes. And so if it's, I mean, that means it's underground, it's the water's flowing and it gets in through that joint.
Well, right, because normally when you lay a pipe, it's gravel, so it's the water can flow more freely around storm drain because of, it's usually trenches are filled in with more permeable sand or gravel.
And we do get some of this stuff on it too, so that's.
Have you checked the meter readings?
Nobody's reporting a leak.
So I thought trustee Hunter had a pretty good suggestion. And I don't know if it warrants a motion to that effect or just direction. What would be the preference of staff to get from trustees?
I don't mind making a motion.
Sounds good. Would that be better?
Yeah.
Would that be best? Okay.
Here you go again. I'm terrible at words. Okay, I'd like to make a motion. Let's see here. Staff would like to know when they can consider a service request closed. Okay, I would like to make a motion in regards to staff closing out service requests. That once staff feels that all appropriate avenues have been taken and the attorney has been consulted and they're resulting in no further legal requirements, then a letter be provided to the appropriate party stating that the service request has been closed.
A second.
Okay, any further discussion, trustees? Not all in favor? Aye.
Aye. Aye.
And that was unanimous, correct? No nays? Should ask for nays. Okay, thank you. And with that, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.